access required to go live on their platform. All right, bet. What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Welcome to Hawks Hoops Live, your weekly NBA show. Happens every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm your host, Hawk. Of course, we usually go live for about an hour and a half. When we really rock and roll, and you're going to see a 2-hour stream eventually. We're just not there yet. Appreciate you pulling up to the stream. If you're here live, if you're a part of the... What is playing? And where? What was that? Anyway, if you're pulling up to the stream live, I appreciate you. If you're part of Rewatch Gang, I appreciate you as well. Yeah, Hawks Hoops Live happens every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on the channel. You can watch it. I usually also go live on TikTok. If you're pulling up to the TikTok stream, join the YouTube if you want to see the full experience, or you can just hang out on the TikTok. But over YouTube, TikTok, it's also on Facebook. But hey, I know I'm a boomer. That's just me being old and a boomer. That's the only reason I posted on Facebook. I got some old heads that rock with me, like family members and stuff like that. So also stream it to YouTube. I'm working on getting it able to be streamed on Twitter as well. We're not there yet. I had to decide if I want a premium Twitter subscription, which I probably don't. So you might not see it on Twitter. We might just stick to the clips on Twitter. But TikTok, YouTube, Facebook is where you can watch the live. We got a lot that we want to talk about today. I just want to check two things to make sure we are streaming just fine. I'm just going to pull the stream up on my end. I just want to make sure it's running fine. Because on my end, it looks like there's a little bit of a... Oh, no, we're straight. It looked like there was a glitch, but there's not a glitch, so we're good. Did I spell watchability wrong? Sure did. Can't change it now. Anyway, all right. So what's up with you guys? Got a lot to be able to talk about today. A lot on the docket. It started out as not a lot, and then the docket just built upon itself. So I want to talk about some stuff going on with the Kings. Lonzo's coming back. Sixers are injured. I have a watchability tier list. Shout out to Kenny Beecham for the inspiration. I did mine a little bit different than he did his. And then, of course, we got to talk about the ESPN Top 100. I wasn't going to, and then I started to go through it. I saw some of the reactions to it, and I was like, I have a couple of thoughts. Not a crazy amount, but I have a couple of thoughts about the ESPN Top 100. So we got to talk about that. Let me just pull my notes up so I have them ready to go, and we're going to go ahead and hop right into this, mainly talking about some of the news around the league first before we get into the tier list and the tier list and ESPN Top 100. So some news around the league. First off, by this time next week, we'll be watching real NBA basketball. NBA season starts October 22nd. We will be going live on the 23rd, that Wednesday next week. We'll see. We'll see how much we talk about. We'll see. I'll leave it at that. There's a world where I have some ideas for some content ideas for this coming year, this coming season. I want to be consistent with this first. I want to be consistent with this before I start adding new stuff to my plate. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Start at the beginning. I want to start my 76ers. So, news came out. I don't even remember which one came out first. Let me see. So this came out from Tim Bontemps 2 days ago on the 14th. Let me pull up this. Oh, let me share. I guess that helps if I share my screen. So news came out 2 days ago. Let me make this a little bigger. All right. How's that look? Perfect. All right, news came out a couple days ago. Joel Embiid doesn't plan on playing back-to-backs for the rest of his career. If I had to guess, I would probably never play back-to-backs the rest of my career. The Sixers this upcoming season have about 15, 14 back-to-back games on the schedule. Okay, Joel not playing back-to-backs. Cool. He also hasn't been played in any preseason game just yet. Additionally, in that, I can't remember if it was an interview or article. This is one of the rare occasions where I actually didn't read the whole look and seek out the whole thing. I just kept seeing the clips. He also talked about that he's probably going to wear his knee brace for most of this season on his left leg. And I'm like, okay, we saw you playing the knee brace in the Olympics. He had that on. He played with the knee brace. Just turning my fan on. Played with knee brace in the Olympics. If I'm not mistaken, he played with the knee brace in the Olympics. I know he played with the knee brace all of the playoffs. he plays with the knee brace a lot. It's bulky. He wears the leg sleeve over it. I don't love it. I ain't gonna lie. I don't love it. I get the reason and the sentiment. Why? Because the goal for Joel Embiid and the 76ers at this point in his career is playoff success. Whatever that means for him. You know what I mean? Just playoff success. The ultimate goal is winning the championship, but at the bare minimum, we're talking Eastern Conference Finals, making it past the second round. If you lose in the second round, like 7 games, game winner types like vibes, we haven't seen Joel Embiid play well in the playoffs. We just haven't. That's been the mark on his. That's been the stain on his career. That's been the stain on his legacy, if you will, for the past 4 or 5 seasons. We know it's fantastic. We know he's great. We know he's MVP. We know he's. Not everybody will say it, and maybe not everybody will agree with me because there are a lot of good players in the league. If you ask me, when healthy, he's still a top 3 player in basketball because he was what he able to do on both sides of the ball. But if you're not healthy in the playoffs, or if you underperform in the playoffs, unfortunately, no one cares outside of Philadelphia and South Jersey. So that's the first piece of the Sixers injury news. And then the second piece, I'm sure most of you also know this by now. Paul George in was that Monday's game? October 15th is Tuesday. I want to say, yeah, either Monday's game or Sunday's game. I'm on Xbox with the guys. And one of my boys go, "Yo, Hawk, what do we do on this channel?" Oh, follow the live creator, Oliver. We talk hoops. That's what we do on this channel, Oliver. We talk hoops. Paul George, I'm on Xbox with my guys. We're playing some rec, running new 2K, you know what I mean? And my boy goes, "Yo, Hawk, Paul George is good. What the heck just happened to his knee?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So then I look up because I got the game on the TV above me, and I see the replay, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what are we doing? Why is everybody playing with my emotions?" And then it turns out that Paul George has a Philadelphia 76ers star. Paul George has a bone bruise and no structural damage to his left knee, and will be reevaluated in approximately 1 week. This was yesterday. 1 week from. This is on the 15th. Today's the 16th. Yeah. This is yesterday. 1 week from yesterday is the start of the season. I think the Sixers season opener is against the Bucks on Wednesday, a week from today. Now, a lot of the conversation is Paul George going to be able to play? Is going to be healthy to play? We'll see. We'll see. To my knowledge, I don't even know if we know for certain that Joel Embiid's going to play opening night for the Sixers. And as a Sixers fan, can I say I'm surprised? No. Am I devastated? Absolutely. Am I surprised? No, because this is the type of stuff that happens to the Philadelphia 76ers. This is the type of injury-prone guys are going to have injury issues. Paul George's was a freak accident. It was him just playing defense, and it looks almost like he planted his leg wrong because it doesn't. From the replay I seen, it didn't look like anyone really made contact with him. He planted his leg wrong, or sometimes your shoes get too much grip on the court, and his foot locked up, and his knee kept moving, and he had a hyperextension. I'm making it sound way simpler than it is. Nick Nurse afterwards said he was okay. Everything looks fine, and he's going to be reevaluated in a week. In terms of what this means for the Sixers in opening night, I wouldn't be surprised if neither Paul George or Joel Embiid plays. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see them play like maybe the first couple of games, or they slowly get ramped up and injected into the offense and injected onto the court. The Sixers are going to be asking a lot from Tyrese Maxey, because even when Paul George and Joel Embiid are back and healthy, we're going to put that in quotation marks for whatever health looks like for those two individuals. We already know Joel Embiid's not playing back-to-backs. Now, that's only 15, but he's not going to play in those 15 games, so that's a chunk that he's already going to be missing. And if he gets any injury, and Joel's had some sort of injury or missed time with injury at least a stint of time last 2-3 seasons. Similarly with Paul George, they're going to be leaning heavily on Tyrese Maxey. They're going to be asking Tyrese Maxey to do a lot in the regular season. Is he capable? I think he is. I'm very curious to see what the rest of that roster looks like. I still have question marks about Caleb Martin. We're going to see a lot of Andre Drummond minutes, depending on how much they do or don't try to ease Joel Embiid into his normal 38 minutes a game, 35, 38 minutes a game. You're going to see a lot from Andre Drummond. And what that looks like for this team offensively is two drastically different teams. One is more. It's going to be more perimeter focused with Drummond on the floor. I'm assuming a lot of pick and roll with Maxey. It's not going to be a lot of Drummond go get us a bucket like it is with Embiid. It's not going to be any. I can't even say a lot. It's not going to be any of that. I hope it's not. But I have some faith in Nick Nurse to be able to, when Joel and when PG aren't on the floor, not necessarily doing ISO stuff, but when they are on the floor being the focal point of the offense, Nick Nurse is a creative enough head coach to implement some ball movement, some player movement to try to get Maxey going in some easy spots. It's not going to be a fun first probably 2 weeks for Sixers fans. 2-3 weeks, the first 2-3 weeks, I don't see it being fun. Simply just because of the nerves that you're going to be dealing with every time Joel Embiid's on the floor, every time Paul George's on the floor, maybe diving for a loose ball or falls for whatever reason. It's going to be an anxiety-inducing first couple of weeks for most Sixers fans. I know for myself at least. Moving on from the Sixers and what our regular season woes, De'Aaron Fox recently, let me pull this up. Shams tweeted this. Can I say real quick before we get in, because a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today is from Shams and from now ESPN, and I forgot to talk about it last week when an announcement was made that Shams is the official Woj replacement. I think we talked about either 2 weeks ago or last week how Woj is retiring from ESPN, stepping down, and we were talking about what the heck is ESPN doing with their NBA coverage. Woj is retiring, laying off Zach Lowe, JJ, Doc leaving for coaching positions. One of the steps that they took is hiring Shams Charania as their lead NBA insider, which I think we all saw coming. We all saw the writing on the wall. It was really just going to be his choice to decide if he wanted to go to ESPN. Like after Woj, he was the best in the business, and he was working with. I was always halfway. He was working with The Athletic, but he also had his TV show on FS1. So now he's fully on ESPN. It is still a little weird seeing Shams pop up on ESPN broadcast and Shams being tied to ESPN. It takes some time to get used to. All that being said, though, Shams tweeted out, this was yesterday. I thought this was interesting. Reporting for NBA Today on Sacramento Kings cornerstone De'Aaron Fox, bypassing an 165 max extension as a larger deal looms in 2025 offseason. So essentially, he's saying that De'Aaron Fox is denying or bypassing or deciding to not sign an extension. I think it would have been a 3-year, 165 max extension in hopes to make an all-NBA team and get a supermax contract. Now, what does that money look like if he gets that? Let me see. I think I saved this tweet right here. Let me pull this up. So De'Aaron Fox, and I love De'Aaron Fox. We know I love De'Aaron Fox. But De'Aaron Fox could command a 5-year, $345 million deal from the Kings if he makes an all-NBA team this season. $345 million deal, potentially, if he makes an all-NBA team this season. Side note, Joe Calvin asks on TikTok, what do I think about the Kings this season? We talked about the Kings last week. Shameless plug, go check out my YouTube video I did a tier rankings for every team in the Western Conference. Talked about the Kings heavily there. Long story short, I'm a big fan of what the Kings are doing. I love the Kings. I've liked the Kings for the last couple of years. I like them. I think DeMar DeRozan was a good pickup for you guys. Back to De'Aaron Fox. First thought is this. The idea of De'Aaron Fox getting a 5-year, 345 is, in my head, it's hard to wrap my mind around that. Like, just, it feels like a lot of money for De'Aaron Fox. It sounds like a lot of money for De'Aaron Fox. But who am I to say how much another person can or can't make? Who am I to say how much another person is or ain't worth, especially when it comes to NBA players? I'm just telling you what it feels to me. It feels like a lot. If he makes an all-NBA team, then sure, yeah, he earned it. Go out and earn it. Can De'Aaron Fox make an all-NBA team? I think he has the talent to. Like, he's talented enough to do it. It's going to come down to, for me, I think the Kings' record and his play. Because the Kings had a good record, a decent record last year, and he played good last year, but Sabonis made All-NBA. Sabonis was the Kings' All-NBA guy. And I think there's potential that happens again this year. That's just how good Sabonis is. I was having this conversation in my head last week, earlier this week, while watching the Starting Five show on Netflix. Who is the best player on the Kings? Sabonis, Fox. I go back and forth on it a lot in my head. I think they're both equally important to that team. I can see an argument for either or on who you think is the best player, though. That being said, I think there is a potentially a world where De'Aaron Fox could make an All NBA team. Is it going to be easy? Heck no. Heck no. But now the All NBA teams are positionless. It's not impossible, but there are a lot of good point guards in the league. We talk about this all the time, how deep the point guard position is and how it's probably the deepest position in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to make it. If I had to bet money right now, I wouldn't put money on De'Aaron Fox making an All NBA team, but I'm not ruling it out. I'll leave it at that. But speaking of the Kings, which I thought was not contradictory, but controversial, is we talked about how Jalen Brunson earlier in the offseason, signed his extension, but left a lot of money on the table. Signed a super team friendly deal, and then that team goes out, trades for Mikal Bridges, is able to keep and retain OG, and then now adds Karl-Anthony Towns. Like him, Jalen Brunson signing that team friendly deal gave that team a lot of flexibility, a lot of cap space, and they were able to make moves to make that team better. Now a lot of people are saying that the Kings potentially have like one of the best starting lineups in the league, at the very least one of the best starting lineups on the East Coast. The Kings won't have that same level of flexibility if De'Aaron Fox signs a 5-year, $345 million deal. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. I'm not saying he won't be worth it. If he gets All NBA, he's obviously worth it. That's just the way it works. That's the way the CBA works. That's the way contracts work in the league. All that being said, I found it interesting that a couple days ago, the Kings traded away. Let me pull this up. A couple of days ago, the Kings traded away Jalen McDaniels in a second-round pick to the Spurs, which is apparently a lot of people are saying a precursor for a bigger deal. There's some potential of a Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram trade to add to Sacramento. Keep in mind, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon Ingram's on the last year of his deal. They're trying to figure out what he's going to look like for next year. So I think a trade for Brandon Ingram for most teams is a lot riskier than a trade for Zach LaVine, considering a trade for Brandon Ingram means, like, is Brandon Ingram going to stay? Is he going to resign? Like, those are the type of questions you have to ask yourself in dealing with or dealing for Brandon Ingram. Zach, I can look it up real quick. I want to say he's on a contract for a while. Zach LaVine contract. Zach is on a... Yeah, Zach has this year, next year, and then a player option. Zach's technically under contract to 2027. Now, that last year is a player option, but he's guaranteed under contract this year and next year. You can go from there in terms of negotiations, trying to figure out to make things work. Do I love the idea of Brandon Ingram and Zach LaVine on the Kings? I don't think it's a bad idea. I think I like Zach LaVine more than I like Brandon Ingram, just because Zach LaVine's ability to shoot the ball. I'd be very curious to see what that trade looks like, because a part of what the Kings, I'm going to say, core is right now, or what feels like their core, is this nice young team that they built. Like, Sabonis was in a trade, but he felt like he was a part of the ushering in of their now, being in playoff contention regularly. De'Aaron Fox obviously has been there since the beginning. Keanu Ellis is a big young piece of that core. Keegan Murray, big young piece of that core. Malik Monk wasn't there his entire career, but has been there the last couple of years. Feels like a piece of that core. So I'd be very curious to see what piece of that core would need to be moved for Zach LaVine or Brandon Ingram and how they would fit in to the system there. The beautiful thing about the Kings is playing alongside of Fox and Sabonis, it is a offense that it's a well-oiled offense. Like, the ball doesn't stick a lot. The ball moves well. They get a lot of shots up. It's a good offense to add a player of Zach LaVine and Brandon Ingram's caliber to. Once again, if I had to pick, because they already have DeMar, if I had to pick, I would add Zach over BI, just because BI also likes some of the mid-range game that DeMar likes. And Zach spaces the floor, but then you're back with Zach and DeMar again on the Kings, which is Bulls 2.0. But you have a good playmaker in Sabonis, so like it could work, because I always felt like the thing that the Bulls were missing was a playmaker, and we'll talk about that in a second. All in all, for the Kings, I like the Kings. I really do. I've liked the Kings for the last couple of years. I'm excited to see what they're going to do. I like that they are in talks, and like these types of talks, because it shows me that they're at least rumored to be an organization that's willing to make some moves. They're an organization that's looking at the landscape around them and trying to get better. One of the knocks on the Kings last year was that a lot of people feel like they took a step back from their really successful year in the 2022-2023 season when they were like a top 4 seed because they were just the healthiest team in basketball. And last year, I felt like they took a step back. And now maybe they're realizing that other teams around them in the Western Conference have gotten better. The addition of DeMar DeRozan was a step in the right direction to see, hey, what can we do to get better? And now potentially trading away Jalen McDaniels gives them some flexibility to do another move. We'll see what happens there. Continuing on, speaking of the Bulls 2.0, Lonzo Ball is back, and he's supposed to be playing his debut. Actually, it's supposed to be tonight. Apparently, he's having a preseason debut tonight during the stream. I don't have it up. I should have pulled it up. It's 8:00 now. I would assume that game is started, but you can't make any. Yeah, that game did start. I'm just gonna click box score real quick because I'm curious. And did he play? Is he on the floor? He played 2 minutes and 54 seconds coming off the bench so far, at least. So he got on the court and he made a field goal. I'm really excited to see Lonzo Ball back. I felt, and I alluded to this earlier when we were talking about the Kings, I always felt that Bulls team with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan was missing that elite playmaker, was missing a guy who can be that connective piece to get everybody involved, to get the ball up and down the court quickly, play with the pace. And for those, I want to say he only played like 16 games. They played like 16 games together before his knee just gave out on him. For those 16 games, almost 3 years ago now, if I'm not mistaken, we saw that. And it looked great. Their defense was great. The offense looked well. Granted, once again, super small sample size. I'm happy to see Lonzo Ball back on the basketball court. I'm happy to hear that he's back on the basketball court playing basketball because it was a time when it looked like Lonzo was out of the league and wasn't going to be playing no more. Gurm, what's good, my guy, on TikTok? Joe on TikTok says, I'm a Spurs fan. I was curious about the Kings, but I appreciate the input. Got you. Yeah, no problem. Happy. Thanks for asking the question. Where were we at? Got distracted. And for a while, for Lonzo, it was looking like he wasn't going to play. And to me, that made me super nervous. It made me think that his career was over for a little bit. And it kind of bummed me out because Lonzo was a guy, and I made a TikTok about him like 3-4 years ago now when he was still in the Pelicans. He was a guy who came into this league with so much expectations because of, big baller brand, playing at UCLA, going to the Lakers, first round pick, like so many expectations. The first couple of years was a little rocky, Jump shot looked a little crazy. He had the crazy wonky shot that came over. He really locked in the offseason, fixed his jumper, and turned himself into one of the best 3-and-D guys in the league, being able to really lock up full court, be a great playmaker, and be able to knock down an open jumper at a really reliable clip. And to see him not be able to be on the floor for the last couple of years to potentially help a Bulls team that really did need him, like a Bulls team that I think, I'm not going to say he would have solved every problem that the Bulls had over the last 3-4 years, but he would have helped out a lot. Like, you can't tell me he wouldn't have made Valanciunas' Jonas. I don't know why I said Jonas. But you can't tell me he would have made Valanciunas' job a lot easier. I mean, Nikola Vucevic's job a lot easier for the Bulls. He would have made Zach's job a lot easier. Him and Caruso in the backcourt would have been crazy defensively. And we really missed out on what I think was a lot of potential with that Bulls team that they assembled. So I'm happy to see that he's back. I am going to reel in my expectations and have and I'm not even gonna say I have realistic expectations. I have no expectations. Like I'm letting him rock. I'm gonna be excited to watch him play, and I have no expectations. My only hope for them that he could stay healthy and continue to play. That it doesn't backfire or some other freak accident happen. That's my only hope for him. I just hope he can play. Continuing on down the, I guess I'll say the newsroom, if you will. This one I thought was interesting. I woke up one Once again, shout out to Shams. It's still weird seeing him on ESPN broadcasts. But on October 10th, so this is last week. This is what is that? Thursday then? Right after we streamed. Essentially, Sham says that Herb Jones will start at center for the Pelicans. Listen, big Herb Jones fan. I think he's one of the better defenders in the league. I think he's one of the best defenders in the league. Quiet as kept, I think he could be in conversation for Defensive Player of the Year last year. Like I think he should have got some more consideration for the award. The idea of Herb Jones at center concerns me a lot for the New Orleans Pelicans. It really concerns me a lot. I think defensively they're going to struggle, but I think this is something that they realized going into the offseason when they lost Valanciunas and have still yet to really fulfill that starting caliber center role for this team. They just don't have a starting caliber center, in my opinion. There were some ideas and playing around with the idea of Zion being starting at center, but then the coach was like, "Nah, that's not the plan. Zion isn't the plan. The plan is not to start Zion at center. The plan is to essentially have Herb Jones play that center role." And outside of the obvious concerns like rebounding, rim protection, defending the post, like outside of those concerns, I think the upside of it is being able to play at a faster pace, having some more spacing on the floor that allows Zion to work. I think if Zion's healthy, he's going to have, with this type of lineup, he's going to have a bully season going to the rim, getting downhill, attacking slower footed bigs. I just think they're going to have a lot on their hands defensively. And I get the idea of starting Herb Jones at center and not starting Zion because you don't want Zion in foul trouble early. So I get why they do it. Do I think it's a good idea? No. But I get it. Continuing on, Victor Wembanyama is not, I won't, bold isn't the word, but confident going into year two. He was asked in a recent, it was a Sports Illustrated, I want to say, yeah, Sports Illustrated, like YouTube interview. It was real fast. Whew. Excuse me. Sports Illustrated interview on YouTube was Victor Wembanyama was asked about, I'll just play it for you. It's easier to hear it from him and have him explain it. Because honestly, when I first saw the clip, I was trying to figure out, understand and see what they were talking about essentially. And then once I realized what they were talking about, it made a lot more sense. I think the question I was asked to him is, what were you most surprised about? What surprised you the most about the NBA your rookie year?
Both in a good and bad way, it's how truly like the best of the game are. How in a good way some of them are really like impressive and like inspiring in the way they approach the game every night, but others that I used to like and now I'm just like, nah, I'm not sure that they deserve, like they don't seem like they put as much work as I thought.
So I thought that was really interesting. He then goes on to ask if there are any active players that he admires. He shouts out Kevin Durant there. I'll say this. All I got to say about Victor Wembanyama is two things. One, I like the confidence. I like it. Don't come across as trash talk because he didn't necessarily name anybody directly, but it comes across as a guy who's willing to put the work in, puts the work in, and is surprised / disappointed that other stars don't put the work in. Which, take that with a grain of salt. How much work you do or don't think NBA players should or should not put in. It's all entertainment to me, and I ain't putting the work in that they put in it. But I do like it from, like, as a fan, hearing him say that, because it's part of me is like, okay, well, I mean, you saying that other people ain't putting the work in, you got to show us the work that you put in. So all that did was make me more excited for year two Victor Wembanyama. Long story short, I said all that to say, all this did is make me more excited for year two Victor Wembanyama, because if you're calling out other players already, you got to show up yourself. And I think he will. I'm looking forward to seeing Wemby in year two. Next on the docket is, so we talked about Karl Anthony Towns with the Knicks last year. Excuse me. We talked about Karl Anthony Towns getting traded to the Knicks last week. We talked about what the some of the concerns are defensively. What is this team going to look like in terms of center depth after Cat? And then news comes out that Mitchell Robinson isn't going to play likely for the rest of this calendar year. So I think that's not a huge concern, but it's something to talk about because to me, excuse me, when healthy and when playing, Mitchell Robinson is quiet as cat, probably like a top 5 defensive big in the league. Like Mitchell Robinson is excellent defensively. I don't know if it's been talked about much in the last couple of months or the last couple of season really because he's dealt with so much injury. But I can remember maybe like a year and a half ago when Jalen Brunson first got there, how good he was defensively. But it's just a matter of can he stay on the floor? Like, is he going to play? And now with him off the court and not being being able to play at least till 2025, after Karl Anthony Towns, you're looking at Precious Achiuwa, Jericho Sims. You're gonna look up and it's gonna be like OG and Josh Hart playing for small ball 5 on some certain lineups, which they can do. They've done it. They did it last year. We saw Josh Hart play some small ball 5 very, very, sparingly. But Karl Anthony Towns being a center who likes to get in foul, not likes, but does get in foul trouble a lot. Like a lot. I watched a lot of Timberwolves games last year. And I watched a lot of Timberwolves games where Karl Anthony Towns either didn't finish the game altogether because he just fouled out, or Karl Anthony Towns got 3 fouls already, and it's at the end of the first because it just happened so fast. Or Karl Anthony Towns got 3 going into halftime, and now you're looking at his minutes a little crazy going into the third quarter. Like Karl Anthony Towns gets in foul trouble, and that was playing alongside Rudy Gobert. I don't, like that was him playing the 4, not even being the final rim protector playing alongside Rudy. Playing the center for the Knicks, being the rim protector, the end all be all to the defense, trying to anchor that defense. Cat's going to be in foul trouble this year, so I'm curious to see how Tibbs navigates that without having Mitchell Robinson to start the season. Next on the docket, I just, y'all know me, I'm not a draft guy, and I didn't watch this game, but I saw the Zach Edey highlights of him going to work on the Indiana Pacers and Miles Turner. Now Ja didn't play in this game, so I think that from the highlights they really did look like they was like, yo Zach, go to work, go to work, go to work. Really feeding him in the post, like just letting him post up, drop steps over both shoulders, finishing soft around the rim, both hands, over the middle, drop stepping towards baseline. Attacking the glass well, getting offensive rebounds, being there for dump off passes. I'm excited to see what Zach Edey and John Morant look like together throughout the regular season. Like I said before, y'all know me, I'm not a draft guy, but Zach Edey, I want to say like 7'3", something crazy, 7'2", 7'3". He's a big body. And I didn't know he finished so well around the rim. I know he was highly touted coming out of Purdue. I know this. But y'all know me. I don't be tuning into college like that. So to see him, yes, it was preseason. Yes, it's the Pacers, the team that's not known for amazing defense. And yes, it's against Miles Turner, someone who, like 3-4 years ago, was touted as probably like a really good defensive center. But the last like couple of years, the defense to me just hasn't felt the same. I'm curious to see how the Memphis Grizzlies use Zach Edey in situations like that, where it's not Joel Embiid or Nikola Jokic or Rudy Gobert or even Bam Adebayo, who's really good defensively. Like when you're going up against the Wizards, how much do you just let Zach Edey go to work? Like when you're going up against, I'm curious to see him go up against a guy like Sabonis, a guy who is a really, really good big, not known to be amazing defensively, but is another strong big. Like that could be a fun little matchup. I didn't expect him to come in, and we'll see. Once again, it is just preseason. You got to take everything in preseason with a grain of salt. But I am pleasantly surprised to see him come in and look like a guy who they can run some sets for, who they can really get involved in the offense, who they can trust to potentially every now and then sprinkle in, like, yo, your turn, go get a bucket, like really get him involved in the offense. I like that. I like that wrinkle for the Memphis Grizzlies. And at least from what I've seen in that game, he don't look like the type of center that's going to really be spacing the floor. And you don't see many centers in today's NBA that can be an effective offensive option and not be a floor spacer, at least to the mid range. I think Zach Edey can be that for them, and it just excites me to see. All right, so the that's all mainly the news I wanted to go over today. Dang, we already been going for 35 minutes, and all I did was go over news and just update y'all on my thoughts on the league so far, what's going around. The NBA season starts next week, right? We all know I watch a lot of basketball. Like, I'm a League Pass guy. I be doing the four corners on League Pass. I watch my Sixers a lot. I watch TNT, ESPN. I watch the national games. I watch the League Pass games. I watch the niche teams. I have my favorites. And so I decided, shout out to Kenny Beecham for the inspiration, to make my version of my watchability tier list in terms of what teams I'm looking forward to watching. Like, on any given night, this is likely who I'm watching and the reasons why. But going into that, I hadn't really looked at this before I made this list. This came out back in August. Well, a lot of people talk about it on Twitter and stuff. It's usually a big topic of contention or just interesting, I say. And that is the number of national TV games that teams get. So I'm going to look at this first before I pull up my tier list, because some of them, my tiers are like, these are teams I'm assuming I'm going to watch on League Pass. But to be honest with you, I didn't look beforehand to see if they have a lot of national games or not. So let's just pull this up. I'm not going to look at this long. Then we're going to get into the tier list. Bink. So this is the... Let me make this a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. This is the national TV games excluding NBA TV, because they have the list that includes NBA TV. But I don't want that list. I want the one without NBA TV. So obviously you got your teams that you expect, the Lakers, Celtics, Warriors to be really high. The Knicks being here makes sense. The Mavericks, Nuggets. I wasn't surprised that my Sixers were this high. I don't always watch Sixers on national televised games. I watch like the local broadcast, so I really don't usually notice how many national games Sixers have, unless it really is a big marquee matchup on like maybe TNT. I've tuned into the national broadcast, but most Sixers nights I'm just watching on the local channel. The Suns were up here. I thought the Timberwolves were going to get a little more than this. I was surprised the Bucks dropped. Only 17 for the Bucks did surprise me. Thunder with 15, the Spurs with 13. You got to show Wemby, it makes sense. I feel like the Cavs got a little snubbed here. And that might be because I'm a big Donovan Mitchell fan. But I do feel like the Cavs got snubbed here. I think they should have got some more games. Indiana Pacers being here, the Clippers being here I won't say it surprises me, because they are in a big market. They are in Los Angeles. They do have Kawhi. They do have James Harden. But I'll explain where we get there. I'm not looking forward to watching many Clippers games. Grizzlies, Pelicans got 9 each. You would like to see Zion more, but if you're the NBA, you're like, yo, Zion, we don't know if you're going to play, so we can't give you more than 9. The Kings, I wish, got some more. The Heat getting 7, unfortunately, doesn't surprise me, because the Heat they've dealt with a lot of injuries over the last couple of years. And they've had some stretches that haven't looked great simply because of their injuries. I'm hoping I'm just going to say I'm hoping they're healthy this year. Sacramento Kings, the Magic, I was hoping they would showcase more. That's just like a really good young team. Just try to showcase some of your young teams. The Rockets getting 3. Once again, not as good as the Magic, maybe not as proven as the Magic in terms of a really good young team, but I think the Rockets can be in a similar tier as a really good young team. So I just wish they got more games. And then it gets pretty dark down here at the bottom. Like, these are the teams, unless you're a degenerate like me, you're just not going to see these teams. The Hawks, the Bulls, and Jazz each have 2. And then the Nets, Hornets, Pistons, Trailblazers, Raptors, and Wizards all have 1 national game. So unless you're a degenerate like me, you're not going to watch and not going to see these teams play. All that being said, all right, let's pull up the tier list. So this one's not going to take as long as the ones we've done in the past, because this is this one's vibes and fun. Like, I have it pre-made, but it's not as serious as talking about who is and isn't a contender. These are just the teams I'm looking forward to watching. All right, so the categories, just so y'all know, my my team, obviously. Like, let's just go ahead and throw them there. I try to watch as many Sixers games as possible. Unless we're playing it, unless Joel, Maxi, and PG aren't playing, or we're playing a team that I just know we should blow out, and there's a really, really interesting matchup on a different channel, I'm likely watching the Sixers. Mainly because the Sixers games for me started like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Like I can knock that game out and still watch a West Coast game or catch like probably the second half of the like 8 o'clock start Eastern Conference game. Because the Sixers usually play so early, I can usually catch plenty of games and still watch most of my Sixers. But the next tier I have is my favorite League Pass team. Favorite League Pass teams. These are the teams that, and a lot of this, some clarity. I'm basing this a lot of this off last year. On part of it is what I watched last year, what I think I'm going to, or what I think I'm going to continue to do, and some of this is based on either off-season moves or based on the season they had last year, on how little I watched some of these teams. I want to try to watch them more, so you'll see that in some of these tiers. But this next tier is just my favorite League Pass teams. So most of these teams are teams I watched a lot last year, and I know I'm going to watch a lot again of this year. The first on that list are, we talked about them earlier, the Sacramento Kings. Absolutely love watching them play. We talked about them at length. I don't feel like I need to go further. The Knicks. I surprised myself with how much Knicks basketball I watched last season. When Joel Embiid went down with his injury, and after playing like them first like 30, I think he played 39 games this season. Once he went down with an injury and the Sixers started losing some games, I was tuning in, trying to see how Maxey and Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris was going to carry us. And then after a while, I was like, I need a different team to watch in this first game slot on the East Coast. And the Knicks was hooping. It was starting around like January. I started watching them heavy, and towards the end of the season, I was locked into the Knicks. I was messing with the Knicks heavy. Next up, we have the Pacers. I just like the way they hoop. I like the brand of basketball they play. I'm a big fan of Tyrese Halliburton. The Pacers. I'm a big fan of the type of basketball that they play and the pace, the pace at which they play. Next on here, I have a caveat. I'm putting the Pelicans when healthy. I've been a big fan of Zion since he came into the league. When healthy, the Pelicans are super fun to watch. I love the combination of Zion, BI, and CJ. I think the addition of DeJounte Murray is going to be huge for them. If they're healthy, the Pelicans are going to be a great team to watch, and they're going to actually be a good team. Next up, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. Fun fact about me, when KD and Russ were there, the Thunder were my favorite team in the NBA. Still got a lot of love for the Thunder. Watching them a lot. I like their players. I'm a big fan of J-Dub. For some reason, I like J-Dub more than SGA. No disrespect to SGA. I just like J-Dub. I just like J-Dub more. SJ is obviously the better player. Come on now, let's not that crazy here. And then lastly, but not least, Minnesota Timberwolves. I watched a lot of Timberwolves last year. They were like my go-to West Coast team. If it was a late West Coast night, they used to have that. They'd be on that 10 o'clock, at 9:30. Not necessarily the 10:30 game. That's reserved for the Lakers and Warriors. But that 9, 10, 9:30 Timberwolves games are really, really good to watch last year. I'm looking forward to watching some more this year. Now, this next is new, but I'm going to try to make an effort. They're new to me. I didn't watch a lot of them last year. I tried to tune in a little bit, but based on the seasons that they had last year or the expectations I have from them this year, I'm going to try to make a bigger effort to watch them. And the first team is the Orlando Magic. I did not watch a lot of Magic last year, but they were very good defensively, and I really liked what I saw from them in the playoffs. I liked what I saw from Paolo in the playoffs. I recognize that they are a really good team. I like the addition of KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, for this team. It's not like the game changer. He's not going to completely solve their spacing issues, but he's going to help a lot. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that for sure. Next on this same tier, I got the Dallas Mavericks. So I think it's kind of been on record for me that I'll admit I was late to the Luka party. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I was late to the Luka party. Not late in the sense of that I realized that he was great. I was late in the sense of like 2 years ago, people were saying he was already an MVP conversation. And I was just like, let's pump the brakes. And then I decided to really pay attention to him last year. And I'm like, no, Luka is nice. And you saw him go on that finals run on full display. You spent some time on his basketball reference page, like really trying to understand his game, watching some highlights. And then you realize he's made 5 All NBA teams already. And he's super young. Like, Luka is nice. I think the addition of Clay is going to be good for them. Kyrie's there, obviously. I'm looking for a next step from Derek Lively. So I'm going to try to make a more concerted effort to watch the Mavs this year. And then last but not least in this tier, new to me, but going to try to watch as much as possible, the San Antonio Spurs. I think they're going to be really good this year. At the very least, I like that. I think year 2 Vic is going to be must-see TV. We talked about the addition of Chris Paul before. Excuse me. And the impact that he can have on this team. The Spurs. Didn't watch a ton of them last year because, oh my gosh. For me last year, Victor Wembanyama's highlights, watching Vic was like, I don't know. Last year for me, when it came to the Spurs, I didn't watch much of their actual games. I would go to NBA.com and watch Victor Wembanyama's field goals or his rebounds or his blocks and just really watch Vic. I wasn't that invested in the rest of the team. I'm a little more invested now. Next tier is inevitable. I don't love, but they're usually entertaining games. And this is mainly this means y'all got a lot of national TV games. Y'all games are usually entertaining, but you're not like my go-to watch. First on this list, Los Angeles Lakers. I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to watch a Lakers game, but I see plenty of Lakers games. That's just how it works. They be on TV. That 10 o'clock, 10:30 slot, the Lakers game is going to be on. And you know who's going to be on right there with them? Golden State Warriors. Both of these teams are my boomer bust categories. Their team, they can have some solid seasons, so they can have some horrible seasons. Like a lot of volatility, a lot of changes on both of these teams this past offseason. And they be on late, and I be up. They got them 10:30 West Coast games, and I be up. So I click it, and I play it. But it's never something I'm seeking out. It's just I want to watch more basketball, and usually their games are entertaining. Also on this tier, I'm putting the Denver Nuggets. As much as I do enjoy watching Jokic, I don't usually go out of my way to watch Nuggets games, but they're another team that just be on nationally televised games, and depending on the matchup, they're usually really, really good games. The Boston Celtics, I'm also putting in this tier. Similar reasons. Some of similar reasons. A lot of nationally televised games. They're on TV a lot. But I usually don't go out of my way to watch them because unless the matchup is good, it's based on last year, especially last year, the Celtics was blowing people out. So if they were playing a team that they were definitively better than, it was no point in turning it on because it wasn't going to be entertaining. Unless you're a Celtics fan and just want to watch them beat up on somebody. But if it ain't my Sixers, I'm more so usually looking for the entertaining game that night. Like I'm looking for the close game. I'm looking for the game that's gonna have some back and forth to it. I'm looking for the game that I can like take something away from, just being a nerd. Will watch depending on the matchup. These are teams that I find entertaining. I'm not watching them play everybody, but depending on the matchup, I'll lock in. First off is the Cavs, Cleveland Cavaliers. Big Donovan Mitchell fan. I'm not going to say I think he underrated, but I think it's dang near close at this rate. With the amount of people pushing for Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards to be as the best shooting guard in the league, I feel like almost Donovan Mitchell's underrated at this point. Not fully, but it's close. The Miami Heat, I'm also putting in this category. This is not a knock necessarily against the Heat. Like I said earlier, they dealt with a lot of injuries like the past 2 seasons. And it always felt like when I would try to watch the Heat, it was a night, and then I realized half the team is injured. So now it's depending on who they're playing, depending on if I think it's going to be a good game, good matchup. Like if the Cavs and Heat were playing, I would turn that game on. I think that'd be a good matchup. But if the Heat and a Heat Warriors game, I'm not turning on. I'll put it that way. Like I'm not. Even if it's the late game, I'm trying to see if I'm gonna look and see who the Lakers playing for their late game. Maybe the Lakers are playing, I don't know, the Knicks. I might tune into that because I like the Knicks some more. Like that's kind of how that goes for me. But if the Heat are playing, say the Heat are playing the Knicks, I'll tune that on. Or Heat play the Kings, I'll turn that in because I like the Kings. I like the Knicks. It really just depends on the matchup for some of these teams for me. And then last, we'll watch depending on the matchup. I'm going to put in the Houston Rockets. That's one team who am I tripping? Oh, there you go. That's one team who I had in my like young team but could be good category when we were doing the rankings. But I want to see them in exciting games. I don't want to see them get blown out. I don't want to see them in games that don't matter. I want to see them in exciting games. It's going to take me a couple weeks to figure out what their talent level is because I have high upside for them, but I could be too high. So I got to see where they really are, and then that's going to help me determine what type of matchups I'm looking forward to them. Like I don't know if I want to watch the Rockets play the Celtics, but the Rockets Kings, Rockets Knicks, Rockets, even Dallas Mavericks might be really interesting because they could be one of those young teams that kind of knock out some of those teams that should be in the playoffs. All right, watching because I'm curious. Curious because I think y'all are either going to be bad. Curious because I think you're going to be good. I just have some questions. First off, the Atlanta Hawks. I'm a big Trae Young fan. I'm a big Trae Young fan. I think Jalen Johnson Jr. Am I thinking the right guy right now? Am I saying his name right off the top of my head? Should have a nice breakout season. I'm hoping he has a breakout season. Like quiet as kept, low key MIP candidate. And now no longer having DeJounte Murray on this team, I'm curious how Trae Young bounces back from that. He did not have the greatest year last year. Can he bounce back? I think he's super talented at the point guard position. Super talented. Just can he bounce back in terms of shooting percentages? I'll say. The Clippers. This team could be bad. Like full stop. This team could be bad, but I'm going to watch because I'm curious. What does this James Harden show look like? James Harden has been real confident in these media days, saying this offense and the way the team plays is going to involve a lot of me. That's what he's been saying. He's like, I'm gonna be involved. He's going to be involved. That's what he's been saying. And with Kawhi's health still being in question, what is this team going to look like? Kevin Porter Jr.'s got I guess we'll say a second lease on life almost on this team. We'll see how he fleshes out over there. And there's another player on this team that I cannot remember the name off the top of my head that also, Kai Jones also is on this team. Both of those players don't strike me as players that you would find fit well on a Kawhi team just because how reserved Kawhi comes off. But we'll see. They could add some scoring punch for this team, which this team could need if Kawhi doesn't play a lot. The Suns. The Suns should have been in my boomer bust category. I think I had a little bit more faith in the Suns because they added Tyus Jones, but I think the Suns still leave a lot of questions. I think there's this idea of always hoping Kevin Durant is healthy for a season. He hasn't been not healthy or completely injury prone the last 2 years, but he has dealt with some knick-knack injuries the last 2 seasons, basically since he's been in Phoenix Sun. New head coach over there, Bud, what can he do? Or will they buy into all this player movement, ball movement that we've been seeing in the preseason? I'm going to watch because I'm curious. The Bucks. Giannis, I just saw a tweet about Giannis saying that he believes that the Bucks might trade him if he doesn't win a championship, which is crazy, I feel like to say. If anything, I think he would ask for a trade before the Bucks decide to trade him. A small market team trading away a generational talent like Giannis just doesn't happen often. Because at the very least, Giannis is going to sell tickets and sell jerseys. And it's still a business. It is still a business. But I'm curious because I'm like, can Dame said, and then also in media day, like they're going to get the real version of me. They didn't get the real version of him last year. He's saying he's healthier, more in shape. He's more focused going into this season. So I'm curious. And then last not least in this tier, Memphis Grizzlies. Ja's coming back, dishing to Zach Edey. How good are they? How good are they? How good can they be? Can they remind people how good they used to be? The Memphis Grizzlies dealt with a ton, and I mean a ton of injury last year. Desmond Bane, quiet as kept. I think a lot of people forget. I don't because they were on my fantasy team at the beginning of the season. But Desmond Bane and Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., were fantastic at the beginning of last season. Like them first 20, 25 games, absolutely fantastic. Desmond Bane started to showcase some more playmaking, some more attacking and shot creation off the dribble. Same thing with Triple J. Not necessarily shot creation or dribble, but started to show and be more aggressive on the offensive side of the ball. Can we see a continuation of that makes sense alongside Ja? Can they at least continue to use those skills that they developed? And how good will they be if they're fully healthy? Because they were super injured last year. Super injured last year. Okay, and in this tier, bad teams I might watch. Bad teams I might watch early in the season, or if they're healthy. And what I mean by early in the season is with the bad teams, sometimes you got to catch them early, because after like a month in the season, 2 months in the season, you look up that a team is 10-22, 11-18, 12-21. I'm checking out. I'm tapping out. Like once you get to a point where it's like, no, y'all gonna lose every game y'all play tonight, I'm tapping out. So in this tier, but early in the season, it's like, I just want to see what y'all building, because there's still excitement there. There's still players are playing with like players are still playing like they got something to play for. Once a team gets in a slump, sometimes it get dark, and when it get dark, teams and players ain't got the energy, not playing defense the right way, and I don't want to watch that. In the beginning of the season, the first 2 months, everybody's playing at 100% energy, like mentally, physically, like everybody's all in. Some of the bad teams start to slip into bad habits as they start to lose more and more games, and that's when I check out. Or they might not even a bad. I don't know if they're a bad team, but they've dealt with so many injuries in the last couple of years. They've looked like a bad team, and that's the first one on here. The Charlotte Hornets. Can LaMelo Ball stay healthy? If LaMelo Ball is healthy, I will watch a lot of Hornets basketball because he is really good. If he is not healthy, I am not turning them on. It is simple as that for me. The Detroit Pistons. I'm gonna watch them early. New coach. I'm trying to be a believer in Cade. I like some of the additions they made. Tobias Harris, Tim Hardaway Jr. Elite floor spacers, no, but better shooters than some of the guys he was running with last year, just to add some spacing, to give Cade some space. Continue development of the young guys over there, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. I'm gonna watch it at least the first month. Now, if it get dark and like it did last year, I'm checking out. But at least the first month, I'm gonna tune in. Next on this list, the Nets. Now, this is a team. The Nets have the potential to me. I'm not even trying to gas it here. The Nets, I think, have the potential to be probably one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like them and the Wizards. Like, if I had to put money on who's going to have the worst record in the NBA, I got them, the Wizards. Yeah, them or the Wizards. But the reason they are here that I might watch them if they're early, I'm a Ben Simmons fan, guys. I just want to see how he looks. And as long as he's healthy and on the court, I'm going to tune into a couple of games, at least to start the season. And then last but not least, Chicago Bulls. Kobe White fan. At least want to see his continued development. I want to see how Josh Giddey fits on this team in terms of being the playmaker that I felt they needed over the last 2 years, but he can't space the floor, so I'm curious to see how it's going to work out. Zach LaVine saying he's going to buy in and try to be the professional and leader that this team needs, even though he's really just saying all the right things to try to get traded. And obviously, we talked about it at the beginning of the show, I want to see Lonzo play, and I want to see how he looks. So I will be tuning into the Bulls for at least the first little bit of the season. And then last but not least, we'll only watch to say I watched, and the matchup definitely matters. I have no interest in watching these last four teams. I'm just going to put them here. Portland Trail Blazers. We talked about them before. I'll tune in a little bit for Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton. Maybe Jeremy Grant will show me something for a reason why somebody should trade for him. Don't got high expectations for this team. Also very curious to see what I just don't have high expectations. I really don't. Chauncey Billups, I believe, on the last year of his coaching deal. And I don't see them re-signing him. So it's just not a lot of upside to me, because I'm not a Portland Trail Blazers fan. It's not a lot of upside to me on this team. There's some young talent like Scoot, Anthony, see what they can do. Obviously, watch them develop. Shaedon Sharpe, obviously, watch him develop. But I'm not excited to watch a Portland Trail Blazers game right now. The Toronto Raptors, they just chilling up in Canada, as far as I'm concerned. They're chilling up in Canada. RJ, Scotty. I'll tune in a little bit to see the continued development, but I'm not excited to watch it. Matchup matters. Matchup definitely matters for these teams, because if they play in the wrong team or they play in a team that I also don't really care about that much, I'm not tuning in. I'm not tuning in. Like, I'll put it to you this way. If the Raptors play in the Hawks, I'm not turning that game on. I know it says I'm watching the Hawks because I'm curious, but I'm going to watch the Hawks play a team like the Magic because the Magic is the team I'm already excited about, and the Hawks I'm curious about. So you know what I mean. I gotta once you in these bottom tiers, you got to be playing the team in one of these top tiers to get me to watch you. If these teams is playing each other, I'm not interested. Washington Wizards, Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. I haven't watched the Wizards in preseason, but I saw a tweet posting what their stats were so far in the preseason. Shooting absolutely abysmal. Shooting absolutely abysmal. The one clip I saw of Washington Wizards gameplay was Kyle Kuzma crossing over and dropping Ben Simmons and then shooting an air ball. So elite hoops down there in Washington. And then the Utah Jazz. Honestly, no hate towards the Jazz. I just am not that excited to watch them. I know they got some good talent over there with dang, name is slipping my mind right now. Laurie, marketing, Colin Sexton over there, and then they're a great defensive center who was excellent on defense a year and a half ago, but it's slipping my mind right now because that tells you how much I am not locked into the Utah Jazz. No offense to the Jazz. I'm just not locked in. All right. And then unable to verify. Not TikTok having me verify the live because I've been live for too long. Not, I guess, not much interaction. All right. So that's my watchability tier list. I don't hate it. I watch a lot of basketball. Like I really do. Most nights I'm watching at least one or two games. Wife watches basketball with me a lot of the times. If not, I'm in here with the game on, just catching up, watching hoops, enjoying it. It's a lot of teams in my favorite league past here. It's a lot of the teams I'm trying to make an effort to, and then they're the inevitables. I'll get to these teams. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I've probably going to. At the end of this season, I'd be shocked if I watch 15 Washington. I can't even say I'd be shocked. I'm not watching 15 Washington Wizards games. I'd be shocked if I see 10. I'm not watching 15 Portland Trailblazers games. I'll be shocked if I see 10. But early in the season, I'm going to catch a couple to say I watched. Now, if this team start trending well, or if you see a player on a hot streak, people talk about them on Twitter, sure, maybe I'll tune in to try to catch the next game. That's usually what happens with some of these bottom tier teams. Somebody might be on a hot streak, somebody might be doing something impressive, and I'd be like, all right, let me see what everybody's talking about. Let me tap in. All right. And then last but not least, I don't think I'm gonna go through the whole thing. The ESPN Top 100 list is in the process of coming out. And every year ESPN does this. They drop a 1 through 100 of NBA players. They do it in segments. Like right now, so far, the 100 to 51 is out. And then the 50 to 11 is out. And I want to say top 10 drops either later this week or early next week. I don't think we'll go through all of them right now. I have a couple of thoughts that I want to share about these rankings. Everyone always gets an uproar over them. Everyone always gets upset. Everyone always says they're snubs. Everyone always says ESPN doesn't know what they're talking about. They don't know ball, don't know hoops. It goes on and on and on and on, right? But I have the way my brain works, I just want to share and go through how ESPN makes this list. Now, do I agree with ESPN's list all the time? Not necessarily, no. That's not what I'm saying. But the way people talk about these lists, they make it seem like it's really people actually ranking these players, and that's just not how these lists are done. So let's go through this real quick. Sleazy, what's good with y'all? What's good with you, my guy? Thanks for pulling up. Yeah, bro, they even got Wemby ranked 11 out of 100. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. See, they do. I did raise an eyebrow. They do. But I want to just not explain, but go over, because we know y'all don't. I know people don't read. I know y'all don't read. So, and that's fine. I read for y'all. It's okay. So let's start with this. The explanation of how ESPN came up with this. NBA Rank is back for its 14th season, counting down the best players in the league who made this season's cut of the top 100. Skipping this part. To get the final NBA rank prediction, we asked our expert panel to vote on player versus player matchups for more than 15,000 possible pairings. Voters were asked which player will be better in the 24-25 season and had to predict how each player performed this season. ESPN's NBA rank panel, comprised of more than 150 reporters, editors, producers, and analysts, was asked to rank players on their predicted contributions, quality, and quantity for the 2024-2025 season only. So three major takeaways from this. The first one is that the first and most important, these are projections. These are projections. These are not based on what these players have done in their careers in the past. This isn't even based on what that player did last year. I mean, it is, but it ain't. That ain't what the ranking is. They're taking that into account. I'm sure you can't project somebody without looking at what they did. But your projection, we could have two drastically different projections based on what we value, based on what we think that player can do. It all comes down to projections are opinions at that rate. Like, projections aren't based in, I can't say that. It's not that they're not based in anything concrete, but concrete evidence doesn't make up 100% of what a projection is. It's in there. It's a part of it, but it's not 100% of what a projection is. That's why it's a projection. The second key piece, they did player versus player matchups from more than 15,000 possible pairings. So basically what they did was they went through, and I don't remember if y'all remember when this went viral last season. There was I can't remember whose podcast. I want to say it was are they called the Big Three? It's a podcast that's real popular. They basically put out this website where it allowed you to create your own version of the ESPN 100 rankings, and it asks you who's better, two players, who's better, this, that. SGA, Luka, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant. Like, it just you clicked who was better, and at the end, based on who you clicked, who was better out of those one-on-one matchups, it generated your top 100 list. And my top 100 list because I did it, and I was like, dang, what? Who y'all got? How is this? And that was just mine, just by myself. I did the exercise, just player matchups. Who would you like better? Who you pick? And I didn't even love my own list once it aggregated it all out based on like the scoring. So if that's me on mine, and I didn't like that, and that's just one person's list. They did it with 150 people. So you got 150 people doing the who's better. It aggregates 150 different people's, and then I'm assuming it averaged out the placements, and that's where, like, so if you had somebody at 3 and I had him at 13, they probably ended somewhere at 7, and that's just if me and you did it. 150 people did it. So they aggregated 150 scores, meshed them together, and came up with this list. So before everybody goes crazy when they're looking at the ESPN list, seeing ESPN don't know ball, ESPN reporters are trash, let's really talk about and understand and read how they came up with this list. Now let's get into the list. Some of these are blasphemous. I think they are projection based. Exactly, they are projection based. You know, I think we just got to take it all with a little grain of salt. So I'm just going to scroll through them real quick. I ain't stopping on everybody. I haven't seen these purposefully. It's probably the last thing we'll do when we're heading up out of here. About an hour 8. It's probably going to take 20 minutes. I ain't going to load you. All right. Anthony Simons. Last year he was 85. I'm not even going to read all of these. Chris Paul still made a list at 99. Last year he was 76. Mike Conley's up here. Shout out to the old guards and the young guard. Herb Jones at 97 wasn't ranked last year. Al Horford wasn't ranked last year. Only surprises me, I guess he's on here because KP isn't going to be playing to start the season, so he's going to have a bigger role. Just at his age to go from not ranked to ranked surprises me. But once again, 150 people. He's at the end. Basically, he's only 4 spots into the list. You know, whatever. We're not overthinking this. Jalen Suggs made the list at 95. Keegan Murray wasn't ranked last year. Shout out to Keegan Murray. I don't know if y'all saw this. He had a moment in the preseason game where the Kings were playing the Warriors. That game felt like a regular season game, by the way. The energy in there was electric. Where he had a nice little possession where he legitimately locked up Steph in like a big moment. It was nice. Brooke Lopez was 69 last year, dropped a lot. Jabari, I've got a lot of upside on Jabari personally. Jonas, Wiggs, MPJ dropped a lot. MPJ dropped that much considering KCP's not on this team no more, and I would assume he's projected to shoot more and have a bigger impact, but whatever. Isaiah Hartenstein, I actually like him being on this list. He had an excellent year last year, and he's going to be huge for the Thunder. Nas Reed, going to be huge for the Timberwolves. JJJ, makes sense. Lou. Dang, there's a lot of guys down here who weren't ranked that's making this list. CJ dropped a lot. CJ dropped a lot. I'm assuming less playmaking responsibilities with DeJounte on the court, but whatever. Marcus Smart dropped a lot as well. I'm very curious to see how Marcus Smart fits in with the Memphis Grizzlies. We didn't really get to see that last year. Ja didn't play. He also got injured as well. Like again, the Memphis Grizzlies, tons of injuries last year. Mitchell Robinson, dang, it's crazy that he's not going to play until 2025. But I like him being on this list. Miles Turner and him being close to each other, I can see it. Honestly, I'd probably have Mitchell Robinson a little bit higher than Miles Turner, but that's just me. Jeremy Grant being at 80. I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself. Fred VanVleet, Brandon Pods? At 78? I mean, I get it. If the Warriors are going to be good, he's going to have to. If you're projecting the Warriors to be good, it's got to be because he's having an impactful and good season. So I get it. Jaden McDaniels makes sense. One of the best defenders in the league. Tyler Hero's going to have to be good if the Miami Heat want to be good. Dante DiVincenzo can have a really big impact for the Memphis Grizzlies. Levine, okay, I'm not mad at that. Jared Allen. Reeves, another player who's going to be important to their team. If that team's going to be good, he's got to be having a good year. Klay Thompson being at 71. If he was lower, I wouldn't be mad. Not hate, but if he was lower, I wouldn't be mad. Bradley Beal at 70. Dropped from 37? Maybe projected injury? Dang. Jalen Green, Houston Rockets. He's got to have a good year. They got to figure out what to do with him. He has to have a good year for his own sake. Brandon Miller, really looking forward to his year too. Honestly, that might be a reason I tune into the Hornets more this year, even if LaMelo don't play. Like I said, I hope LaMelo plays, but Brandon Miller had a really good rookie campaign, and I didn't watch as much as him as I should have. Cade Cunningham, looking forward to him this season. I know a lot of people are mad at Cade Cunningham being at 67. A lot of people were, but I can see Cade Cunningham being a controversial fit in terms of if you just looked at his numbers from last year, they weren't bad. But if you look at, not necessarily his numbers, what I'm trying to say. If you look at the success of the Pistons, you might throw a lot of that on Cade. That team was just bad. Like, it wasn't nothing Cade could have did with that team. Draymond at 66, it is what it is. Malik at 65, I love. Some of these guys, I'm just happy that they're on this list because Malik should be on this list. Emmanuel Quickly going from 92 to 64. I got to watch more Raptors. That's all I'm going to say on that. Chris Middleton, 63. A lot of people are mad at Chris Middleton at 63 as well. With the couple of injuries he's had over the last 2 years, people are worried about his health. I get it. KCP, 62. I actually like this a lot because I think he's going to be really, really good for this Magic team and really impactful for them. Josh Hart jumped from 61 from 91. Without Mitchell Robinson, he's going to play a lot of backup big minutes, so it makes sense. Desmond Bain, I like here. Caruso makes sense. He's going to be huge for that Thunder team. Kobe White being this high surprises me. But with DeMar out, somebody's got to shoot. Kobe White's going to get more shots. I get it. Darius Garland dropping this far surprises me. Derek Lively being here makes sense. Stepping into big center minutes for the Mavericks. Jaren Jackson Jr., dang, he dropped a decent amount. Alpi, I'm not mad at Alpi being in this list. I don't know if I'd have him at 54, but considering if the Rockets are going to be as good as I think the Rockets should be, yeah, that makes sense. Franz, Orlando Magic, OG. Okay. Oh, that was 51 right there. All right, so yeah, this list ain't as long as I thought, or at least take as long as to go through or not. LaMelo at 50. Aaron Gordon at 49. Julius Randle. I'm not mad at this section so far, at least. Emob, KP, DeMar, J-Dub. I'm not even mad at him at 44. DeJounte, Pascal, James. Because this is, what's it ranking? Let me see. Ranked players based on their projected contributions, quality and quantity. So they're projecting how they will perform. It's not even like ranking them in terms of who's better. It's projecting how they will perform. Honestly, I'm hating this list even. Yeah, y'all tripping. The list really ain't that bad. Because you're talking about how these people will perform. Derek White, Brandon Miller. I don't know why I said Brandon Miller. Brandon Ingram, Derek White, Mikal, Trae Young. I'm not mad at that. Drew, Scotty, Rudy, Laurie, Chet. Okay. Oh, look, a little big lineup right here. Jamal Murray. I feel like the Nuggets would wish he was higher here, but based on his last year, I can see it. I can see that. Oh my gosh, excuse me. Karl-Anthony Towns at 30. Not mad at that. Domantas Sabonis at 29. Not mad at that. Jimmy. Heat fans would hope he was higher. Zion. Okay, makes sense. De'Aaron Fox. Kyrie. I saw a lot of people mad at Paolo being here, but they're saying his projected impact. And if the Magic is going to be good, like people are saying the Magic could be like a top 6 seed. I've seen it. I've seen the conversations. If that's the case, Paolo got to be the 24th most impactful player in the league. Like, has to be, because the spacing still ain't great for that team. You added KCP, but the spacing still ain't great. So if they're going to be good, he has to be great. All right. Anyway, Damian Lillard. I feel like if you're a Bucks fan, you would wish his projected impact would be a lot higher than that, considering they have championship aspirations. But if you go based on what he did last year, I can see it. That's why I'm not surprised. Last year, he was 14th because he was coming off of what he was doing in Portland. He didn't have a Portland year last year. Kawhi at 22 makes sense because you don't even know how much time he's going to play. PG at 21 makes sense because he's the third option. Ja at 20, you would hope he's higher. If the Grizzlies are going to be good, you would hope. Maxey at 19, I like that, considering Sixers trying to win a championship. All right, Bam at 18. If you put Bam at 18 and Jimmy where he had him, I don't hate that then. I forgot we didn't see Bam yet. Donovan Mitchell makes sense here. Tyrese. Honestly, I think they're sleeping on how good the Cavs could or could not be. I think this is putting a ceiling on the Cavs' potential by having him here. Or like they're projecting a ceiling on Cavs' potential, I would say. Devin Booker at 15. We haven't seen Kevin Durant yet. I just peeped. So Devin Booker being here, I don't know. Doesn't surprise me nor disappoint me. It's just Devin Booker's here. I haven't seen Anthony Edwards yet, though, but I guess it makes sense because Anthony Edwards' projected impact should be higher than Devin Booker's, considering Anthony Edwards is not playing with Kevin Durant. So I get it. Jaylen Brown being here at 14. Anthony Davis at 13. Brunson at 12. And Victor Wembanyama at 11. I think people think Victor Wembanyama going to be MVP. Literally, the last sentence it says, Wembanyama should make a run as surpassing the 254 blocks he notched last season on the way to earning his first All-Star nod while falling squarely in the MVP conversation. Yeah, Vic's going to be looking at potential Defensive Player of the Year award next year simply because you're not going to be able to ignore the amount of blocks he gets because he's not going to be the only minute restriction that they got last year. 2 likes on Facebook. That's love. And I'm not mad at it. I get why some people are. Don't get me wrong. I do. Some people just think ESPN doesn't know basketball and don't like ESPN. But when you take into consideration that it's all projections, it's not ranking the players themselves in terms of their talent. It's projecting. Once again, we'll read it for clarity. This list is projecting contributions, quality and quantity for the 2024-25 season. They're not projecting who's the better player. They're not projecting talent. They're projecting contributions. And when you look at it through that lens, I don't hate the ESPN list. But somebody gonna call me a sheep or saying ESPN's paying me off or something, which that's obviously not true. I don't hate the list. It was a lot of uproar on Twitter about it, like it is every year. That's why ESPN puts out the list. I also think that's why ESPN does the list in the way that they do it, because they know it's going to come out with some controversial rankings. And then when people put out the tweets of just this is ESPN's top 100 list and just type out everybody's name without any explanation, it's going to get topic. It's going to get people going. It's going to get people talking about it. It's going to get people clicking it, and then we get the ad revenue from people going to the site. So I get it. I ain't mad at the game. The game is the game, and I ain't mad at the game. All right, but that's all we got for you guys this week. Appreciate you guys for watching. Appreciate you pulling to the stream if you pulled up. If you're part of Rewatch Gang, I appreciate that as well. I will see y'all next week where we will be starting the NBA season. I'm excited. By this time next week, we will have watched actual regular season NBA basketball, and I can't wait. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.